Hey there, everyone. Before we jump in, it's a fun idea if you tell us where you're from in the comments. Thanks. Remember to hit like and subscribe. Now let's get settled and begin. It's a strange thing, standing in front of thousands of people, hearing their voices scream your name, knowing every word you sing, every note you hit, is worshipped like gospel. Up on stage, I'm a god. That's what they see, a man who has everything. They don't know what's really happening behind closed doors. I remember when Lena and I first met. I was still clawing my way to the top, writing songs in cheap motels, playing dive bars for peanuts. She was my world. I worshipped her, believed in her. Even now, after all these years, part of me still does. But something's been off for a while. I can feel it, gnawing at the edges of our life together. My life is loud, chaotic, always in motion. The road eats away at the hours, the days, the years. Between the tours and the shows, I built my career, and we built a family. Sophie, our daughter, my pride and joy, is almost grown. I thought we had it all. A marriage that withstood fame, a family that thrived despite the chaos. I thought wrong. It started small, barely noticeable. Lena's attention slipped. I'd catch her checking her phone, those quick glances, the way she smiled at something that wasn't meant for me. At first, I ignored it. I chalked it up to my paranoia, the pressures of my world, the long absences. But then I started noticing the silences at home, the distance in her eyes when we were together. Her body next to mine in bed, but her mind somewhere else. Lena and I have been together too long for me not to recognize the signs. I'm not some clueless idiot who doesn't see when things start to fray at the seams, but I convinced myself it was nothing, just the ebb and flow of marriage, a phase we'd get through like all the others. That's what I told myself. That's what I believed. Then Sophie came to me. It was late, and she looked upset. Too upset for it to be something as simple as school or teenage drama. I knew something was wrong. She sat on the edge of my bed, the weight of her presence heavy in the room. When she spoke, her voice was small, almost broken. "Dad," she said, "I saw something." I don't know how to tell you. I didn't want to hear it. Whatever it was, I didn't want to know. But Sophie, my girl, wouldn't have come to me if it wasn't serious. I sat up, bracing myself. "What is it, Soph? You can tell me anything." And then she said it, words I never thought I'd hear. "Mom's been cheating on you with Nick." Nick, my best friend, my tour manager, the guy I've trusted with everything for over a decade. The guy who's been in our house, around our family, more times than I can count. He's been a part of my life, my career, Lena's life. And now he's been sleeping with my wife. I felt something inside me crack. I didn't move, didn't say anything, just let the words hang there, burning in the air. I tried to make sense of it, but it didn't compute. Nick? Lena? My mind refused to accept it. But Sophie's face, her pale, trembling face, told me everything I needed to know. It was real. It was all real. I didn't explode. I didn't scream. I just sat there feeling the cold spread through my chest, numb and detached. I should have felt something, a flood of anger, pain, betrayal, but all I felt was a sick emptiness. Sophie watched me carefully, her eyes wide, as if she was afraid I might break. Maybe I was breaking. I don't know. "Are you sure?" I asked, my voice sounding foreign to my own ears. She nodded. I saw them, more than once. That did it. My whole life shifted in that moment, as if everything I thought I knew had been built on a lie. The betrayal wasn't just an affair. It was Nick. Nick, who knew me better than anyone, who stood by my side for years. He was in my house, my life, my bed, in ways I never imagined. The marriage I thought was solid, the family I thought I had, it all shattered in an instant. A marriage built on lies, a friendship destroyed. And Sophie, my girl, my reason for everything, had seen it all. I could see the damage in her eyes, the way she looked at me like I might break under the weight of it all. But I wouldn't break. I couldn't. I felt something new bubbling up, something dark and vengeful. It wasn't just anger. It was a cold, calculated rage. I wasn't going to let this slide. No. I was going to make them pay. Every last one of them. I sit in the kitchen, staring at the cold coffee in front of me. It's early, too early for this conversation. Lena sits across from me, her eyes downcast, avoiding mine. She's quiet. Usually I'd be the one filling the silence, trying to ease the tension. Not today. What did Sophie tell you? Her voice is low, careful, but I can hear the edge in it. She's nervous. I lean back, forcing myself to stay calm. My chest feels tight, but I won't let her see me break. Not yet. She told me she saw you with Nick, I say flatly. I don't elaborate. I want to see how she reacts. Lena's head snaps up, her eyes wide with shock. Or maybe it's guilt. Ethan, that's not true. Sophie's confused. She's just a kid. Don't lie to me, I cut her off. My voice is sharp, and I can feel the anger rising, but I clamp down on it. She saw you, Lena, more than once. She opens her mouth, then closes it again, struggling to come up with something to say. I watch her, my stomach churning. How long has she been lying to me? How many times has she looked me in the eye and pretended everything was fine? The silence between us stretches on, thick and suffocating. Ethan, it's not what you think, she finally says, but the words sound hollow. Even she knows they're empty. I shake my head, my jaw clenched so tight it hurts. Don't insult me with excuses. You've been screwing Nick behind my back, haven't you? Lena flinches and I feel a grim satisfaction at her reaction. She's been caught. There's no point in denying it anymore. She looks away, unable to face me. Why? I ask, the word coming out harder than I intended. Why him? Why now? She takes a deep breath, like she's about to say something meaningful, but when she speaks, it's more of the same. Ethan, I didn't mean for this to happen. It just what? Happened? You just fell into bed with him by accident? The sarcasm drips from my words, and I see her wince. Stop it, she snaps, finally meeting my eyes. There's a flicker of anger in her now. Good. Let her be angry. It's not that simple. I want to scream, to throw something, but instead, I sit there watching her crumble in front of me. I thought I'd feel something more, some kind of overwhelming rage or heartbreak, but all I feel is cold, numb. So what is it then, Lena? Enlighten me. She doesn't answer, just sits there with her hands clasped in her lap, looking as if she might break into tears at any moment. I don't care. I'm done with her tears. I'm done with all of it. I push back from the table and stand up, needing to get out of the room before I do something I'll regret. I'll give you a few days to pack your things, I say, my voice steady despite the storm swirling inside me. And then I want you out of my house. She looks up at me, her face pale. Ethan, please, don't, I snap. You made your choice. Now live with it. I turn and walk out, leaving her sitting there, broken. But I'm not broken. I'm just getting started. The next few days are a blur. I go through the motions, rehearsals, meetings, dinners with the band, but everything feels disconnected, like I'm watching someone else's life from the outside. I think about Nick constantly. Every time his name crosses my mind, I feel the anger tighten in my chest. I trusted him. He was in my inner circle, part of my life for years. And now I'm going to destroy him. But I need proof. Sophie's word isn't enough, not for what I'm planning. I start by going through Lena's phone while she's out. It doesn't take long to find the texts, the emails. The two of them weren't even careful. They must have thought I was too distracted by my career to notice. I scroll through message after message, reading the sickeningly intimate details of their affair. They'd been meeting up for months, hotels, late-night rendezvous while I was on tour. All of it right under my nose. I knew I couldn't trust Lena anymore, but seeing the proof laid out in front of me like a cruel joke makes it real in a way that no conversation could. Nick, the betrayal runs deeper than I imagined. I sit back, my hands shaking slightly as I toss her phone on the table. This isn't just about her. It's about him too. Nick's been managing my tours, controlling the business side of things for years. He knows every detail about my career, my contracts, my money. I trusted him with everything. Now I'm going to take it all back. Later that night, Lena comes home. She walks through the door like she's carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. I watch her from the living room as she moves quietly around the house, avoiding me. We haven't spoken since that morning in the kitchen. She knows what's coming. I step into the hallway, blocking her path. She looks up at me, startled. I can see the exhaustion in her eyes, but it doesn't move me. "We need to talk," I say, my voice calm but firm. She nods and we sit down at the dining table. I let the silence hang between us for a moment before I speak. "I found the messages." Lena's face drains of color. She opens her mouth, but no words come out. I don't give her a chance to speak. "How long?" I ask, my eyes locked on hers. "Ethan." Her voice cracks and she looks down at her hands. "It's been a few months." A few months. I feel the words sink in, heavy and cold. "You thought I wouldn't find out?" I asked, leaning forward. "You thought you could keep lying to me?" "I didn't want to hurt you," she whispers. I laugh, a harsh, bitter sound that cuts through the room. "Well, you failed." Her shoulders slump, and for a moment I think she might actually break down. But I don't care anymore. This isn't about saving our marriage. This is about revenge. "I want you gone," I say, my voice low but steady. "Pack your things and leave." "Tonight." She looks up at me, her eyes wide with shock. "Tonight? Ethan, where am I supposed to go?" "Go to him," I snap. "Isn't that what you've been doing all along?" Her face crumples and she starts to cry, but I don't feel anything. Not sympathy, not guilt, just a cold satisfaction. She deserves this. The next morning, I watch as she drags her suitcases out the door. Sophie doesn't know yet. I haven't told her, but I know it's only a matter of time before she figures it out. I sit down at my desk, flipping through contracts, emails, anything I can use to cut Nick out of my life. This is just the beginning. I'm going to tear him apart, piece by piece. The tour, the business deals, the partnerships, everything we built together, I'm going to destroy. But then Sophie walks in, her face is pale, her eyes red. "Dad, I saw something." "I didn't want to tell you, but I thought you should know." I look at her, confused. "What are you talking about?" Her voice shakes as she speaks. "I saw them, Dad, together in our house." I freeze, the words hitting me like a punch to the gut. In my house, the betrayal isn't just an affair anymore. It's something darker, something more personal. And Sophie, my girl, saw it all. I nod slowly, the weight of her words settling over me like a shroud. This isn't just about my broken marriage or my ruined friendship. It's about my daughter, the one person I swore to protect. Now it's personal. There's no going back from this. Revenge doesn't happen in a flash of rage. It's calculated. Every step is deliberate, every move purposeful. I've always been good at strategy, whether it's managing my career, planning tours, or writing an album. This is no different. Lena and Nick destroyed my life piece by piece. Now I'll do the same to them. I start with Nick. Taking him down will be more satisfying and, frankly, easier. He relies on me for everything, his career, his reputation, his connections. Without me, he's just another failed tour manager. I've always been the reason he stayed in business. Now I'll be the reason he falls apart. I make a few calls to some key people in the industry, agents, promoters, the kind of people who hold power but prefer to stay in the shadows. I tell them what they need to know, that Nick is unreliable, that he's been pocketing more than his fair share from the tour revenue, and that he's a liability. The beauty of the music industry is that rumors spread fast, and people don't ask questions if they sense a risk. Especially when the risk is tied to someone like me. Within days, Nick's name is starting to circulate through the wrong circles. Whispers about mismanagement, about him sabotaging my career for personal gain. I know how these things work. One bad whisper turns into a storm. And once the damage is done, there's no way to reverse it. Nick is about to become untouchable. But that's only the first part of my plan. Lena is more complicated. She's the mother of my child, and for years, she's been the woman I thought I'd spend my life with. But I can't let her get away with what she did. She took everything we built together, every moment we shared, and threw it away for a cheap affair with a man who wasn't worth it. That betrayal cut deeper than anything else. I can't confront her directly, not yet. She'll sense the trap if I make my move too early. Instead, I play the role of the forgiving husband. I tell her we can work through this, that we owe it to Sophie to try again. She's hesitant at first, but Lena's never been the strong one in this relationship. She needs security. She needs the life we had, and I give her just enough hope to reel her back in. It's not hard. I know how to charm her. We go to dinners, we talk about our future. I pretend like I'm willing to forget what she's done, like I'm working to fix things. But behind the scenes, I'm setting everything in motion. I start pulling strings with our friends, planting seeds of doubt about Lena. Little things at first, mentioning how distant she's been, how she seems unhappy, how I'm concerned about her mental health. It's all part of the plan. By the time I'm done, no one will trust her. No one will stand by her. Sophie's the only thing that keeps me grounded in all of this. She's the one person who's truly innocent, and I know I have to protect her from what's coming. I spend more time with her now, trying to strengthen the bond between us. I take her to the studio, show her the behind the scenes of my music, and we talk late into the night. I want her to know that I'm the parent she can rely on. I need her on my side when this all comes crashing down. But there's something off. Sophie's been quieter lately, more withdrawn. I ask her about school, about her friends, but she brushes it off. I know she's holding something back, and it worries me. I can't let Lena poison her against me. That would be the final betrayal, one I'm not sure I could recover from. I press her one night, sitting in her room after Lena's gone to bed. "What's going on, Soph? You've been different lately." She looks away, fiddling with the edge of her blanket. "It's nothing, Dad. I'm just tired." I don't believe her, no. "Sophie, I need you to tell me the truth. Is it about your mom? Did something happen?" She hesitates, and that's when I know. "I saw them," she says finally, her voice barely a whisper. "In the house. I didn't know how to tell you." The rage that flares inside me is immediate and blinding, but I force myself to stay calm. "What exactly did you see?" Sophie's eyes fill with tears, and she can't even look at me. "I saw them, kissing, in the living room. I didn't know what to do." The betrayal hits me again, fresh and raw. Nick and Lena in my house, with my daughter watching. It's worse than I thought. They didn't just betray me, they betrayed Sophie. They brought their filth into our home, the place where my daughter is supposed to feel safe. I want to scream, to break something, but I can't. Not here, not in front of Sophie. I pull her into a hug, holding her tight. "I'm sorry, Soph. I'm so sorry you had to see that." She cries into my shoulder, and I feel the last remnants of restraint slipping away. This isn't just about revenge anymore. It's about protecting what's mine. I won't let Lena and Nick ruin my daughter's life the way they've ruined mine. The next day, I escalate my plan. I dig deeper into Nick's financials, using every connection I have to cut him off at the knees. Bank accounts, deals, endorsements, everything is falling apart for him, and he doesn't even know it yet. Soon he'll be scrambling, desperate to fix what he can't. And when he turns to me for help, I'll be there to watch him drown. Lena, on the other hand, is starting to get suspicious. She's noticed the shift in our friends, the subtle way people have begun to distance themselves from her. She asked me if I've heard anything, if people are talking behind her back. "Of course not," I say, feigning concern. "People love you, Lena. They're just worried. You haven't been yourself lately." She frowns, clearly unsettled, but she doesn't push it. She's still clinging to the hope that I'm trying to make things right between us. But deep down, I know she feels the ground shifting beneath her. She just doesn't know why. It's a week later when I make the discovery that changes everything. Lena's been planning to leave me. I find the emails between her and Nick, detailing their plans to take Sophie and start a new life. They've been waiting for the right moment to make their move, thinking they'll get away with it before I catch on. But now I know, and I'm not going to let it happen. I confront Lena that night, keeping the emails in my back pocket for when I need them. She's sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone when I walk in. We need to talk, I say, my voice cold. She looks up, sensing the shift in my tone. What's going on? I don't waste time. I know what you've been planning. You're not leaving, Lena, and you sure as hell aren't taking Sophie. Her face pales, and for a moment she looks genuinely terrified. Good. Ethan, I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me, I shout louder than I intended. I found the emails, Lena, you and Nick, planning to take Sophie and run. Did you really think I wouldn't figure it out? She stands, trying to regain some semblance of control. You're being paranoid. I wasn't going to. I'm not paranoid, I snap, stepping closer. I'm done playing games. You've already taken enough from me, but you're not taking my daughter. Do you understand me? Lena's lips tremble, and for the first time in a long time, I see fear in her eyes. Ethan, please, we can talk about this. We can work something out. There's nothing to work out, I say, my voice cold and final. You're done, Nick's done, and when I'm through with you, you won't have anyone left to run to. I leave her standing there, shaken and speechless. She doesn't know what's coming next, but she'll find out soon enough. The next morning, I make the final moves to cut Nick out of my life completely. I cancel his contract, blackball him from every major tour, and make sure no one in the industry will touch him. By the time I'm done, he's a ghost. Just a memory of someone who once mattered. As for Lena, I file for divorce, making it clear in the papers that she will get nothing. No money, no house, and certainly no custody of Sophie. The legal fight will be ugly, but I'm prepared for that. I have the resources, the power, and the evidence. Lena and Nick underestimated me. They thought they could betray me and walk away unscathed. But now they're the ones with everything to lose. I sit back in my office, the weight of the last few weeks pressing down on me. This is what revenge looks like. Cold, methodical, absolute. But as I stare at the divorce papers in front of me, I feel a strange hollowness inside, and the plan is working. Everything is falling into place. But why does it feel so empty? I should feel satisfaction, a sense of justice for what they did. But instead, all I feel is tired. The party is tomorrow night, and everything is in place. I've been planning this for weeks. Every detail carefully laid out, every piece set to fall exactly where I want it. Lena and Nick think this is some sort of reconciliation, a fresh start. I've let them believe it, played the part of the forgiving husband, the friend trying to move past the betrayal. They have no idea what's coming. This party is supposed to celebrate the anniversary of my most successful album, an album that made me a household name. But tomorrow it'll be the end of their lives as they know it. I sit in my office looking at the files on my desk, emails, text messages, photos, all the evidence I've collected over the last few months. They'll be displayed for everyone to see. All it took was a few subtle conversations, a couple of leaks to the right people, and now, by the time the night is over, everyone will know the truth. I can already picture their faces, the shock, the humiliation, the panic. Lena's wide eyes as she realizes what I've done. Nick's pathetic scramble to save what little is left of his career. They won't be able to hide. Not this time. The night of the party arrives, and I'm the perfect host. I greet people at the door, shaking hands, smiling, playing the role. My house is filled with music industry elites, people who have known me for years, people who know Nick. They all think they're here to celebrate another milestone in my career, but the real show is about to start. Lena glides through the crowd, wearing the black dress I bought her years ago, the one that always made her look like a goddess. She looks beautiful tonight, the kind of beautiful that once made my heart race. But now all I see is a stranger, a liar. Nick is here too, staying close to the edges, as if he's still trying to play it cool. He doesn't know that I've already started pulling the strings on his downfall. I watch them from across the room, sipping my drink, waiting for the moment. The tension is building. Look, I mean, I am wank. The anticipation curling in my chest. I feel it in every glance I exchange with the people who know what's coming. They're in on it, some of them anyway. A few select friends who understand what it means to be betrayed so deeply, so personally. They're watching too, waiting for the same thing. The event planner comes to me, giving the signal. It's time. I tap my glass, the sound ringing through the room as the chatter dies down. I step to the front, standing next to a giant screen that's been set up for what they think is a slideshow of my career highlights. Thank you all for being here, I say, my voice steady, controlled. Tonight isn't just about celebrating my music. It's about celebrating the people who have been a part of this journey. I look around the room, my eyes landing on Lena and Nick. Lena smiles nervously, sensing something is off but not quite sure what. Nick looks bored, already shifting his weight, probably planning his exit for later in the night. I've been lucky to have great people by my side, I continue, my voice tightening. But sometimes even the people closest to you aren't who they seem. I hit a button on my phone and the screen behind me lights up. The first message appears, an email from Lena to Nick, planning one of their late-night meetings. I watch the crowd's reaction as the words sink in. Gasps, murmurs, a few sharp intakes of breath, and then Lena's face. She freezes, her eyes wide, her hand clenching the edge of her dress. I keep going, the messages scrolling one after the other. Texts, photos, everything. The room feels like it's collapsing in on itself, the air thick with tension. Lena looks at me, her face pale, and Nick is trying to leave, pushing through the crowd, but people are blocking his way, watching him, whispering, "You think you can just ruin my life and walk away?" I say, my voice cold, hard. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? That I wouldn't see what was right in front of me? Lena's trembling now, tears filling her eyes. She steps toward me, her voice shaking. "Ethan, please, I didn't—" "Don't," I snap, cutting her off. "You made your choices. Now live with them." Nick has managed to get to the door, but one of my security guys stops him. He's stuck, trapped like the rat he is. His face is flushed, sweat beading on his forehead as he realizes there's no escape. "Tonight, everyone knows what you've done," I say, turning to the crowd. "I trusted these two with my life, my family, and they betrayed me." The silence is deafening. Lena breaks down, sobbing, while Nick just stands there, his eyes wide, panicked. He knows it's over. Everything he's built, his reputation, his career, it's all crumbling right here, right now. I should feel something, satisfaction, closure, but instead, "How's Danny?" There's a hollowness in my chest, an emptiness that I didn't expect. The party disperses quickly after that. People leave in hushed whispers, giving me sympathetic looks but not daring to say anything. By the end of the night, it's just me, standing alone in the middle of the wreckage I've created. I go upstairs where Sophie's room is. I knock gently and step inside when I hear her voice. She's sitting on her bed, her face buried in her hands. She didn't go to the party, but she knows what happened. The walls in this house aren't thick enough to hide the sound of her mother's breakdown. "Soph," I say quietly, sitting next to her, "I'm sorry you had to go through this." She doesn't look at me. "Why did you do it like that, Dad? Why in front of everyone?" I don't have an answer that'll make sense to her. How do you explain revenge to a teenager? How do you tell your daughter that you needed to make them suffer the way they made you suffer? I can't tell her that I did it for her, to protect her, because deep down I know it wasn't just about that. It was about my pride, my need to feel like I'd won. "I had to," I say quietly. "They deserved it." Sophie lifts her head and I see the pain in her eyes. "I'm not sure they did." Not like that. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I thought I was protecting her, but I realize now that I've hurt her too. She didn't ask for any of this. She didn't ask for her family to be torn apart in such a public, brutal way. "I'm sorry," I say, but the words feel empty. "I didn't mean to hurt you." She pulls away from me, wiping her tears. "I just want things to go back to how they were." I don't know what to say to that. I don't know how to tell her that things will never go back to how they were. Not after this. Instead, I stand and leave her room, closing the door behind me. The next few days are a blur of legal battles, public fallout, and endless phone calls from journalists. Lena's left the house, staying with some friend of hers. Nick's nowhere to be found, but I know his life is in ruins. His name is being dragged through the mud, just like I planned. But none of it feels good. There's no satisfaction in it. I thought seeing them fall apart would make me feel like I'd won. But instead, all I feel is empty. Sophie barely talks to me now. She's withdrawn, spending most of her time in her room or with friends. I've tried to reach out to her, to explain, but she doesn't want to hear it. And I can't blame her. I destroyed her family in the name of revenge. I let my anger consume everything. A few weeks later, Lena shows up at the house. I'm in my office going through some paperwork when I hear the doorbell. I open the door and find her standing there, looking exhausted, defeated. "We need to talk," she says, her voice strained. I step aside, letting her in. We sit in the living room, the tension thick between us. "I don't know what you want from me, Lena," I say, breaking the silence. She sighs, rubbing her temples. "I didn't come here to fight, Ethan. I want to make things right for Sophie." I look at her, and for the first time in weeks, I see the woman I used to love. The woman I thought I'd spend the rest of my life with. But that woman is gone, replaced by someone I barely recognize. "I did what I had to do," I say quietly. She shakes her head, tears brimming in her eyes. "No, Ethan, you did what you wanted to do. And it's destroyed everything." Her words sting, but I don't respond. What can I say? She's right. "You could have handled this differently," she continues, "but you didn't. You let your pride take over. And now look where we are." I want to argue, to tell her that she's the one who ruined everything. But I can't, because deep down, I know she's right. I let my need for revenge consume me, and in the process, I lost everything that mattered. "I just want to make sure Sophie's okay," she says, standing up. "She's all that matters now." I nod, watching her leave. When the door closes behind her, the house feels emptier than ever. Sophie comes to me later that night. She sits down on the couch, her face serious. "Mom came by," she says. I nod. "I know." She takes a deep breath, her voice trembling. "Dad, I love you, but I can't stay here anymore. I need to be with Mom." The words hit me harder than anything Lena ever did. Sophie's leaving, my daughter, my reason for everything, is walking out of my life. "I'm sorry," she whispers, tears streaming down her face. "But I can't stay in this house after everything that's happened." I want to beg her to stay, to tell her that I'll make it right, but I know it's too late for that. The damage is done. I nod, swallowing the lump in my throat. "I understand." She hugs me tightly, and I hold her for what feels like the last time. When she pulls away, she gives me a sad smile. "I'll still see you, Dad, but I need some time." When she leaves, the silence in the house is unbearable. I sit there for hours, staring at the walls, wondering how everything went so wrong. I thought revenge would fix everything. I thought it would give me closure. But all it's done is tear my life apart. The chaos from the party has settled, but the damage it left behind is far from over. Nick and Lena have vanished from the public eye, retreating into the shadows, licking their wounds. Their reputations are in tatters, just like I planned. But what I didn't plan, what I didn't anticipate, is this hollowness that clings to everything now. The silence in my house is suffocating. Sophie barely looks at me anymore. The bond we once had, the late-night talks, the laughter, it's all gone. I did this for her, or at least that's what I tell myself. But the truth, the one that gnaws at me, is that I was so blinded by my need to destroy Lena and Nick that I never stopped to think about what it would cost me. I've tried talking to Sophie, tried to explain why I did what I did, but every time she pulls away. I watch her retreat into her room, headphones on, shutting me out. The more I try to reach her, the more distant she becomes. "Dad, I just need space," she told me the last time I tried. Her words were sharp, final. I let her have it, but it's killing me. She's the only thing that mattered in all of this, and now I'm losing her too. I sit in my office, scrolling through emails and texts. The satisfaction I once felt seeing Nick's life unravel is gone. Now it just feels empty. I've blacklisted him from every major tour, cut him off from every contact that could have helped him salvage what's left of his career. He's a ghost in this industry now. I should feel victorious. I should feel like I've won, but I don't. The divorce papers sit on my desk, unsigned. I haven't spoken to Lena since the party, and I'm not sure I ever want to. But that doesn't stop the memories from creeping in uninvited. The good moments, before all of this. The nights we'd stay up talking, the way she used to laugh at my terrible jokes. It's hard to reconcile that woman with the one who betrayed me, who lied to me so effortlessly. I thought revenge would wipe all of that away, but it hasn't. If anything, it's made it worse. The anger is still there, simmering just beneath the surface, but now it's mixed with something darker. Regret, maybe, or guilt. I don't know anymore. Sophie comes downstairs one morning, her bag slung over her shoulder. She's been staying out more, spending time at friends' houses, avoiding me as much as she can. I watch her grab a piece of toast and head for the door without a word. "Soph, can we talk?" I ask, my voice cracking more than I'd like. She stops, her hand on the door, but she doesn't turn around. "I'm late for school, Dad." "It'll only take a minute," I say, desperate now. She sighs, finally turning to face me. "What is there to talk about?" I step closer, trying to find the right words, but nothing feels right. "I know things have been hard, after everything. I just want to make sure you're okay." "I'm fine," she says quickly, too quickly. "I'm dealing with it." But I can see the cracks. The way her eyes avoid mine, the way she's holding herself together by a thread. I know I've done this to her. "You don't have to deal with this alone," I say softly. "I'm here for you, Sophie. Always." She looks at me for a long moment, and for a second, I think maybe I've gotten through. But then she shakes her head, that familiar wall going back up. "I'm late," she says, and just like that, she's gone. Days turn into weeks, and the distance between us grows. Lena has started sending texts, asking to talk, to meet up for Sophie's sake, but I ignore them. I can't deal with from her right now, not when I'm already losing the one person who still matters to me. The media circus surrounding the party has died down, but there are still whispers. People in the industry who know what happened, who watched it unfold. I've become a cautionary tale in some circles, a reminder of how quickly things can fall apart when you let your personal life bleed into your professional one. But I don't care about the whispers. I've weathered worse storms in my career. What I can't handle is the quiet in my own home. The way Sophie's absence echoes through every room. I finally agree to meet Lena. We sit in a small cafe, the kind of place we used to go to when we were younger, before the fame, before everything got so complicated. She looks tired, worn down, but there's still a fire in her eyes. The same fire that drew me to her all those years ago. It's unsettling, sitting across from her like this, as if we're strangers now. "Thanks for coming," she says, her voice cautious. I don't respond right away. I'm not sure what to say to her anymore. Everything feels like a tainted by what she did. "I didn't come here for you," I finally say. "I came for Sophie." Lena nods, biting her lip. "I know, that's why I wanted to talk. She's struggling, Ethan, more than you realize." "She's shutting me out," I say, my frustration slipping through. "I've tried to talk to her, but she won't let me in." "She won't let either of us in," Lena says quietly. "She's angry, and she has every right to be. We both messed up." I bristle at that. "Don't compare what you did to me, Lena. You're the one who had an affair. You're the one who destroyed our family." Her eyes flash with anger, but she keeps her voice steady. "I made a mistake, yes, a terrible one. But what you did at that party, humiliating me and Nick like that, you didn't just hurt us, you hurt Sophie. She's the one who's paying for all of this." I want to argue, to tell her she's wrong, but deep down I know she's right. Sophie was caught in the crossfire of a war she never asked to be a part of. "What do you want me to do, Lena?" I ask, my voice low. "How do I fix this?" She sighs, leaning back in her chair. "You can't fix it, not with one conversation, not with one grand gesture, but you can start by being honest with her. Admit that you're hurting too, that you're lost. She needs to see that you're human, not just this. I don't respond. I can't because I don't know how to be vulnerable like that. Not anymore. That night, I knock on Sophie's door. She opens it slightly, peering out at me with guarded eyes. Can I come in? I ask. She hesitates, but eventually steps aside, letting me into her room. It's a mess, clothes on the floor, papers scattered across her desk. It's not like her, but then again, none of this is. I talked to your mom today, I say, sitting on the edge of her bed. Sophie crosses her arms, leaning against the door. And we talked about you, about how you're feeling. She scoffs, shaking her head. You think talking to mom is going to fix this? No, I admit. But I want to try to fix things with you. I know I've made mistakes, Sophie. I know I've hurt you. She's quiet for a long time, her eyes flickering with a mix of anger and sadness. You didn't just hurt me, Dad. You destroyed everything. I don't know if I can ever trust you again. Her words cut deeper than I expected, but I forced myself to stay calm. I know, and I'm sorry. I thought I was protecting you, but I was wrong. I let my anger take over, and I didn't stop to think about how it would affect you. Sophie looks at me, her eyes searching mine for something, maybe sincerity, maybe regret. I don't know if she finds it, but she eventually nods. I'm trying, Sophie, I say softly. I just want you to know that. She doesn't say anything, but she doesn't push me away either. It's a small step, but it's something. Weeks pass and things start to settle into a fragile new normal. Sophie still spends most of her time with her friends, but we've had a few more conversations since that night. They're awkward and strained, but they're happening. That's more than I could have hoped for. Lena and I are finalizing the divorce. It's a clean break, no drawn-out legal battles, no fighting over assets. She's getting the house, the one we raised Sophie in. I don't need it. I don't want it. It's filled with too many memories, both good and bad. As for Nick, he's out of the picture completely. I heard through the grapevine that he's trying to rebuild his career in some small-time band. It's a far cry from the life we had, from the world we ruled together. But I don't care anymore. His fate isn't my concern. One evening, I find myself sitting alone in my new apartment. It's small, a far cry from the mansion I once called home, but it's quiet, peaceful in a way. I think about everything that's happened, the betrayal, the revenge, the fallout, and I can't help but wonder if any of it was worth it. I thought revenge would give me closure, would heal the wounds Lena and Nick left behind, but all it's done is leave me with more scars. I've won, in a way. I've destroyed their lives, just like I set out to do, but in the process, I've lost so much more than I ever imagined. I take a deep breath, staring out the window at the city below. Sophie is spending the weekend with Lena, and I know they're rebuilding something, a new relationship that doesn't include me. I'll still see her, of course, but things will never be the same. I thought I could control everything, that I could bend the world to my will if I just pushed hard enough. But now, sitting here alone, I realize how wrong I was. Some things can't be controlled. Some things can't be fixed with revenge. And now all I'm left with is the aftermath. I sit in my car outside Lena's new house, the engine idling. The sun is setting, casting long shadows over the driveway. I know I should leave, drive away and let this go, but I can't. Not yet. This confrontation has been building for months, maybe even years. It's inevitable, the last loose end I need to tie up. I look at the house, a nice place, small but comfortable. Sophie's in there unpacking her things. She's starting a new life with her mother, a life that doesn't include me. My chest tightens at the thought. I was always so sure I'd be the one who'd raise her, who'd guide her through life. Now I've been reduced to the father she visits on weekends, a background character in her new reality. I finally kill the engine and step out of the car, walking up the path to the front door. I don't know what I'm going to say, only that this conversation needs to happen. The past months have been a blur of revenge and retribution, but now that the dust has settled, I realize how empty it all feels. I knock once. The door swings open, and there she is, Lena. She looks different, worn down, but somehow calmer than I've ever seen her. She doesn't seem surprised to see me. We need to talk, I say, keeping my voice steady. She steps aside, letting me in without a word. The house smells new, the air thick with fresh paint and the faint scent of lemon cleaner. It feels like she's already moved on, like I'm walking into someone else's life. We sit in the living room across from each other. There's no tension this time, just a kind of weary acceptance. I wasn't sure when you'd come, she says softly, leaning back in her chair. But I knew you would. I needed to see you. I needed to understand. She looks at me, her eyes tired. What is there to understand, Ethan? We've both made our choices. I shake my head, leaning forward. No, it's more than that. I need to know why. Why Nick? Why now? She sighs, running a hand through her hair. I wish I could give you a simple answer. I wish I could say it was a mistake, that it was some moment of weakness. But that wouldn't be the truth. Then what is the truth? She pauses, choosing her words carefully. I was lonely, Ethan. You were always gone, always wrapped up in your career, your fans, your music. You stopped seeing me a long time ago. I grit my teeth, the familiar anger bubbling up. So this is my fault? No, she says quickly, shaking her head. It's not just your fault. But it wasn't just me who gave up on our marriage. We both did. Nick, he was there when you weren't. That doesn't excuse what I did, but it's the truth. I sit back, letting her words sink in. I'd always thought I was the victim in this, that Lena and Nick were the ones who destroyed our family. But now, sitting here, I realize it's more complicated than that. We were both complicit in our own way. You didn't just betray me, I say quietly. You betrayed Sophie. Lena's face crumples, her eyes filling with tears. I know, and I'll never forgive myself for that. But I'm trying, Ethan. I'm trying to make things right with her. And what about me? I ask, my voice hardening. What am I supposed to do now? You've taken everything from me. She wipes at her eyes, composing herself. You took just as much from me. The party, the public humiliation. You knew exactly what you were doing. I don't deny it. I did know. I wanted her to feel the pain I felt, the betrayal. But now that it's over, I'm left with the aftermath, and it doesn't feel like a victory. Later, I leave Lena's house and drive aimlessly through the city. My mind is racing, going over everything she said. She's right. I knew exactly what I was doing that night at the party. I knew how much it would destroy her, destroy Nick, and I reveled in it. But I never considered how it would destroy Sophie too. I think about Sophie constantly now, the way she looked at me when she told me she couldn't stay with me anymore. She didn't just leave because of the affair. She left because of me, because of what I became. I pull over at a park, turning off the car. The night air is cool, and I sit there in the darkness, my thoughts spiraling. I wanted control. I wanted to dictate how everything played out, from my career to my family. But life doesn't work like that. People aren't chess pieces you can move around a board. I tried to control everything, and now I have nothing. Sophie comes by the apartment a few days later. It's a surprise. I wasn't expecting her, but when I open the door and see her standing there, I feel a flicker of hope. Can I come in? She asks. Of course, I say, stepping aside. She sits on the couch looking around. It's the first time she's been here since I moved out of the house, and I can tell she's uncomfortable. I sit across from her, waiting for her to speak. I've been thinking a lot, she says after a long pause, about everything that happened. I nod, not wanting to push her. I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive Mom, she continues. But I also don't know if I can forgive you. The words sting, but I keep my expression neutral. I understand. She looks at me, her eyes full of confusion and pain. Do you? Because I don't think you get how much that party hurt me. You used me, Dad. You made me a part of your revenge, and I didn't ask for that. I know, I say softly, and I'm sorry, Sophie. I thought I was protecting you, but I see now that I wasn't. I let my anger take over, and I didn't stop to think about how it would affect you. She's quiet for a moment, then nods slowly. I want to move on from this, but I don't know how. I don't either, I admit, but I want to try. I want to fix things between us. Sophie looks at me for a long time, and I can see the struggle in her eyes. She wants to forgive me, but I know it's not that simple. Trust isn't something you can rebuild overnight. I don't know if we can ever go back to how things were, she says quietly. I'm not asking for that, I say. I just want a chance to make things right, to be a better father. She doesn't respond right away, but when she finally nods, I feel a weight lift off my shoulders. It's not a full reconciliation, but it's a start. Time passes slowly after that. Lena and I finalize the divorce without much drama. She gets the house, and I keep the apartment. We've agreed on joint custody of Sophie, but I know she'll spend most of her time with Lena. I'm trying to make peace with that. I see Sophie on weekends, and our conversations are strained but civil. She's still distant, still guarded, but she's making an effort, and I'm grateful for that. I've stopped trying to control everything, stopped trying to force things to go my way. I'm learning to let go, even if it's the hardest thing I've ever done. Lena and I don't talk much. When we do, it's about Sophie, how she's doing, how we can help her move forward. There's no more anger between us, just a quiet resignation. We've both hurt each other in ways that can never be fully repaired, but we're trying to put Sophie first now. Nick is out of the picture entirely. I don't know where he is, and I don't care. He's no longer relevant to my life, and that's a relief in itself. One night, I find myself sitting in my apartment, staring at the divorce papers. Everything is official now, and yet I feel nothing. No relief, no closure, just an emptiness that I can't seem to shake. I think about the man I used to be, the rock star, the husband, the father. I had it all, or at least I thought I did. But now, looking back, I see how fragile it all was, how easily it crumbled when the cracks began to show. Revenge didn't fix anything. It didn't bring me peace, and it didn't heal the wounds Lena and Nick left behind. If anything, it deepened them, leaving me more broken than before. I still don't know if I'll ever be able to rebuild the trust I lost with Sophie. I don't know if she'll ever look at me the way she used to, but for now, all I can do is try. All I can do is be here for her, in whatever way she'll let me. Months later, I drop Sophie off at Lena's house for the weekend. She gives me a small smile as she steps out of the car, and it's the first real smile I've seen from her in a long time. It's not much, but it's enough to give me hope. As I drive away, I glance in the rearview mirror and see Lena standing in the doorway, watching Sophie walk inside. Our eyes meet for a brief moment, and I give her a nod. She nods back, a silent acknowledgement of everything we've been through. We're not friends, and we never will be, but we're parents, and that's something we'll always share. That night, I sit alone in my apartment, sipping a glass of whiskey. The city lights stretch out before me, and for the first time in a long time, I feel a strange sense of calm. I've lost so much, my marriage, my family, my sense of control. But in losing all of that, I've found something else, a kind of clarity. Revenge didn't bring me the satisfaction I thought it would. It didn't fill the void Lena and Nick left behind. But maybe, just maybe, I can find a way to move forward. Not with anger, not with control, but with acceptance. The road ahead is uncertain, but it's the only road I have left. And this time I'm willing to take it. I sit on the balcony of my new apartment, staring out at the city lights flickering in the distance. The air is crisp, and there's a stillness around me that feels heavy. It's been months since Sophie left for college. Months since I watched her walk away with Lena, the two of them moving forward, leaving me behind. The quiet is suffocating now. At first, I thought I could handle it, convince myself that I had won, that I'd achieved what I set out to do. Lena and Nick's reputations were destroyed. They disappeared from the industry, from public life, from everything. I'd taken everything from them, but what did I get in return? Nothing, not the satisfaction I craved, not the sense of justice I thought would bring me peace. I drink slowly from my glass, letting the whiskey burn as it slides down my throat. The bitterness suits the moment. I've spent my whole life chasing the next high, on stage, in the studio, with my family. Everything had to be perfect, or I'd tear it apart trying to make it so. But perfection was always a lie, and now I'm the one left with the pieces. Sophie calls occasionally. Short, polite conversations. She asks how I'm doing, and I lie, tell her I'm fine. I know she doesn't believe it, but she doesn't push. I'm grateful for that. I've pushed her enough. I think back to when this all started, when Sophie first told me about Lena and Nick. I can still see her face, the pain in her eyes as she tried to shield me from the truth. She was so young, too young to be caught up in all this. And I was too blinded by my rage to see what I was doing to her. I thought revenge was the answer, that by tearing Lena and Nick down, I could make things right. But all I did was tear Sophie apart in the process. She's the one who paid the price for my need to control everything. She's the one who lost the most. The apartment is small, minimalist. No reminders of the life I had before. I didn't bring anything from the old house, no photos, no memories. It's better that way. Cleaner. But the emptiness echoes louder than I thought it would. I wonder if Lena feels the same. She moved on, but I know she carries the weight of what happened too. We both do. Sometimes I think about calling her, asking her if she ever looks back, if she ever feels the same hollow ache that I do. But I stop myself. What's the point? We've said everything that needed to be said. There's no closure to be found there, no neat resolution that'll make any of this feel okay. We were both responsible, and we both paid the price. I light a cigarette, the smoke curling in the air as I exhale slowly. I wonder if this is what it feels like to get older. Not the physical decay, but the slow realization that some things can never be fixed. You just have to live with the consequences, the scars left behind by your choices. Sophie hasn't forgiven me. I don't expect her to. She says she understands why I did what I did, but understanding doesn't mean absolution. I see it in her eyes every time we talk. The hurt, the distrust. I lost her the moment I let my anger consume me, and now I don't know if I'll ever get her back. There's a part of me that still clings to the hope that maybe one day things will be different, that Sophie will come back, that we'll rebuild something from the ruins of our family. But I don't know how to start. I don't know how to undo the damage I've done. I finish my drink and pour another, the silence thick around me. Revenge was supposed to give me control, but all it did was strip everything away. I thought I was strong enough to handle the fallout, to rise from the ashes. But here I am alone, watching my life play out from a distance. Lena's moved on. She's building something new with Sophie, something I'm not a part of. I wonder if she thinks about me, if she regrets what happened. But then again, does it matter? Our marriage was over long before I found out about the affair. We were just too caught up in our own lives to see it. I used to think I could control everything. My career, my family, my life. But life has a way of showing you just how little control you really have. I've lost so much, my marriage, my daughter, my sense of who I am, and for what? A fleeting moment of satisfaction when I watched Lena and Nick's world crumble. It wasn't worth it. It never was. I glance at my phone, half expecting a message from Sophie, but there's nothing. Just the empty screen staring back at me, a reflection of the emptiness I feel inside. I know I need to move forward, to find some way to rebuild. But I don't know where to start. The music isn't enough anymore. The fame, the fans, the tours, they all feel hollow now. Without my family, without Sophie, it's just noise, a distraction. The night stretches on, and I stay on the balcony, watching the city below. The world keeps moving, even when you feel like you've been left behind. It's strange how life goes on no matter what. I think about calling Sophie again, but I stop myself. I don't want to push her. I've already pushed too hard, forced her into the middle of a war she didn't ask to be a part of. She needs space, and I need to respect that. I need to give her the time to heal, even if it means waiting in the background. I've spent so long trying to control everything, trying to force things to fit into the box I'd created for my life. But maybe it's time to let go of that. Maybe it's time to stop chasing after something that's already gone. The apartment is dark now, the city lights casting a faint glow through the windows. I sit there staring out into the night, the weight of everything pressing down on me. I thought revenge would bring me closure. But all it's done is leave me with the bitter truth. There's no neat resolution to be found here. No final victory. Just the quiet, haunting consequences of a life driven by anger and the need to control. And now all I have left is the silence.